All right. Good morning, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started in just here in a moment or two. Let everyone get settled. We're excited to be here talking about CoPilot with you all today. Oh, Brighton, how are you doing today? All right. Yeah, just give it another 30 seconds or so. Looks like there's still a couple people that are getting logged in. All right. Well, I think that's a decent number of folks on the call. Let's go ahead and kick off. Welcome everybody to what we're lovingly referring to as the Aviatrix quarterly report for CoPilot. Today we're going to be talking about elevating your secure cloud network, talking about things like how to better operate your multi-cloud network, how to simplify your deployments. And one of the exciting things that we're going to be talking about as well is just kind of diving into a lot of the changes that have come to CoPilot over this last quarter. And we think that it's really important for the transparency for everyone to see what's going on. But before we jump into that and the agenda, I just want to do a couple introductions. So I'll start, and then Brighton, I'll hand off to you to do an introduction. But I'm Josh Crittlebaugh. I'm a principal product manager here at Aviatrix. I run our visibility CoPilot suite. So just excited today to be here with you all talking about the state of CoPilot. And Brighton?
Hey everyone, I'm Brighton, Head of Design for Aviatrix, primarily focusing on the user experience for CoPilot. So really excited to share what we have in store for you.
Very good. So we're just going to jump right into kind of an agenda. This is going to be more of a live demo report. We're going to be showing on some of the things that have come out, and we're actually going to touch on a couple of things that will change even this week, so that you all be able to see some of the upcoming changes, as well as an exciting new version of CoPilot 4.0 comes out. And that should hopefully be releasing either the 19th or the 20th this week to all of our customers that run CoPilot. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk a little bit about the controller and the CoPilot GUI combination. We'll go over the new gateways pages that becomes available in CoPilot after 7.0. The Diagnostics Tools, the Cloud Asset Inventory with a look into your entire cloud's networks for VMs and VPCs. And within that, there's also an easy mode for VPC creation. And then there's a new feature that we're excited to talk about, which is a simplified deployment of Aviatrix key feature sets. Think of it as like a wizard. Pretty cool. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to share our screens. And we're going to jump right into our demonstration. And we'll just give that a moment to populate out. All right, so as you can see here, we'll talk about this change in a little bit, but you see right when you log in to CoPilot, you're going to have these getting started pages. We'll touch on that towards the end. This is one of those new features that we're really excited about talking about. One of the biggest things that we've been doing as part of the work over the last almost year and a half now here at Aviatrix is we've been taking the two separate graphical interfaces that we have that users use to go through, push buttons, make changes, visualize their networks. And we've been slowly and surely combining this into one physical interface, so that our customers, folks like yourselves, don't have to log into multiple GUIs to do your work. Think of it as a single pane of glass to operate and manage your entire network. And as we've been doing that, we found that there's some really unique and cool things that we can do and present to make life easier. My background is actually network engineering. And what I've found over and over is that there are tool sets that have been missing in traditional networking feature sets or networking platforms that could really simplify my life. And for an example here, as I come into my gateways page, the first thing that I see, instead of just a huge list of gateways, is this overview that lets me see my most utilized gateways, my least utilized gateways, are there any gateways that I should be looking at right now as a network operator or a network controller, and making sure that they are healthy? We do have those breakdowns of our transits, our spokes, any other gateway types that are in this. As you can see, there's some different bullet options so that I can say, does this particular gateway have a healthy status? Should I be drilling in and looking at this quickly? Something that draws my eye to it so that it lets me be able to really identify the health and the accuracy of my network. So Brian, this workflow though for deploying gateways and using transits and connecting transits, it's a little bit different. Did you want to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like?
Oh, sure. This one's been one of our exciting changes from the design side. I think for those who've used controller before, you'd have seen a lot of things changing with CoPilot. And this is a fundamental change that we are bringing to the way we do workflows here. So it's always fun to look back where we came from. So for those familiar with controller here, to deploy a spoke gateway, for example, you would go to multi-cloud transit, say setup, then you click on spoke, and then you would launch a spoke gateway or an edge gateway of your choice, filling up all these forms. But what we realized talking to you guys is it doesn't end here. Once you create a spoke, you want to create another one. You want to create a HA to it. And then to make this functional with your backbone, you then have to wait for it, go and attach it to a transit network. So imagine you're doing this to scale up to like three gateways for your spoke in a VPC. Now you're clicking through this multiple times. So with CoPilot, we've taught this from what we call as from a procedural workflow to more of an intent-based workflow. So today, if you want to deploy a gateway, the same spoke gateway, you come to gateways, go to the spoke gateway page, and click on Add Spoke Gateway. And in one simple form, you could create your you could create your spoke gateway, picking the cloud of your choice, attaching it to a transit in the same step, and wait for it. You could also add your HA gateways right in context here. So you're not hopping multiple screens, but you're able to get your entire intent of deploying a spoke, adding redundancy / high availability to it, and attaching it back to your backbone in one single step. And this is not just spoke gateway. We have used this kind of workflow thought process across all the other features as well. Josh, I'm turning it back to you to talk more about the gateway details and more features that we have added onto this.
No, it really is the work that our design team has been doing and the research that's gone into making sure that our gateway deployment process really is as simple as possible. Reducing the number of clicks inside of our interface has been really important. And like Brighton was talking about, this goes beyond the ability to just deploy simply. We also want to be able to see as much information as possible, as quickly as possible for our gateways. So as you can see here, when I click into this transit, and this is an AWS transit that I have running in a VPC in my environment, I'm able to quickly come in and see what AZs is it running in, what's the IPs, what's the subnet ID, what are its private IPs. And I can do this for a whole slew of different things. Like, do I want to look at the routes that are associated with this particular thing? Is that route up? What are the interface statistics for that particular environment? Am I seeing any overruns or drops or RX errors, or are there these things that are running in my environment that aren't healthy, that I as a network operator would be able to identify quickly by having access to that device as if it were any other device in my network? We also can do a lot of our advanced settings within this as well. So if I need to do any of my SNAT or DNAT, I can do that. I can do some complex BGP, and I can really drill into and customize this gateway to operate in the best way possible for my particular network and my needs as a network engineer or as a security engineer in controlling and manipulating my traffic. We've also heard from a lot of our customers that the upgrade process is somewhat difficult. And you can see here on first glance, I don't actually have any gateways that I need to upgrade because I'm running latest code. But if I wanted to look at all the gateways in my environment and understand what I need to do to make sure that they're running with the optimal code, now from the gateway management page, I'm now able to quickly come in here and see all of the software upgrades that I have, the image upgrades that I need to do. And if I need to roll something back for some reason, those workflows are extremely simple. And it's just as simple as selecting the gateway that I would want to run back and rolling it back to the particular service or to the particular software versions that I was running previously on it. One of the things that you'll notice that's different in this, and you'll see this actually throughout the entire CoPilot platform, is there's this new data grid in a way that we're laying out all the visibility into our tools. And Brighton, how does this new data grid help us better manage our environments?
Yes, so one of the things that we looked at from our data grid perspective is what's the usability and ease of finding the entity of your choice from a list of about, like in this case, 40, but you could be running 400 or 4,000 gateways here. So for example, let's look at this one. My environment is all up to date. So let's pretend that this is all your gateways that you're seeing. So typically when you upgrade, you're not going to upgrade your entire infrastructure. You might choose to do certain sections first, maybe the sections that are in your test environment and keep your production for later, or it might be you want to upgrade a particular region first in a particular cloud. So this filtering option, this is not just in this data grid, but in data grid throughout the product, allows you to slice and dice the data of how you want to see it. Let's say I want to do AWS first. I pick AWS and it immediately narrows down to the 60. Now I can aggregate these filters on, stack these filters on top of each other. Now let's say I just want to pick one particular region, and let's say it's US East 1, and it filters it down, and then you'd be able to select all of this and begin your upgrade. Of course, you don't see this because my engineers have maintained an amazing latest up-to-date system here. And similarly, on the gateway rollback, you have the same filters that are available to you, as well as a search field. So if you don't want to go granular as search, now I can search for something in EU. I don't have an EU, so let's do something in West regions, and you could pick all the gateways in the West region across the 3 or 4 clouds that you're using. So this functionality of search and filter is combined on every data grid in our product, and it helps you imagine the workflows just like how you would want them to do it according to your playbooks. So this has been a very powerful change that we have introduced to all the data grids in the product in CoPilot today.
Thank you, Brighton. And there have been a couple of really good questions that I just want to make sure I touch on. So one of the questions that was asked is, are we able to rename the gateways after they've been deployed without having to do a delete and a redeploy? So the answer still today is no, and that's with how the gateway itself is actually deployed in AWS or in Azure, in that we can't change some of the infrastructure that comes along with it. However, that is something that we are looking at being able to do, especially when you get into the situation where there was a typo or there was something simple that you maybe messed up as you were, because we're all human and we do that. And I typo things all the time. And being able to go back and change those things, it is something that we are actively looking into. And we want to make sure that, we provide that simplicity. A lot of the structure here uses the backend APIs of the CSPs. So making sure that we play well with those and being able to identify gateways, because for us, the number one thing that's the most important with our gateways is maintaining that connectivity and maintaining the foundation to make sure that there isn't any outages or downtimes. But that is a great question. So thank you for that. Driving along with our agenda, where the next thing that we wanted to talk about was our diagnostics tools. And what you'll notice now is that there are many new sections within our diagnostic suite that allows you to be able to start troubleshooting and validating the health of your network. So in this particular instance here, I'm going to choose one of my gateways. We'll use that same AWS transit that we were dealing with earlier. And we could say, for example, like maybe an application is running slow, or maybe someone's reached out and said, I need to be able to understand what my network is actually doing. I need to know what ports my application is using. Well, instead of digging through flow data and looking at these different things, what I'm able to do with this is now, from a very clean dashboard, I can just go in and run a packet capture right on that gateway. So you can see here, I have applications that are using port 443 and port 5000. I can see my ACKs, my push ACKs. I was getting my send, my typical TCP. I would see all those as well. I'm now able to get this full PCAP, and I can download this right here. So now I'm able to say, here is a packet capture from this particular gateway. In this case, I was able to run it for, I could run it for up to 60 seconds, but it's completely customized. I can also do things like pings and trace routes. I can look at my active sessions, which is very, very useful in being able to say, do I have stagnant sessions, or do I have sessions that are healthy? I want to be able to look and see what is actually going on inside my environment. We also have things like testing BGP. So once again, using that simple AWS transit where I'm running BGP, if I wanted to do something simple like a show IP BGP, I can now run this directly from the Diagnostic Tools, and I can get that out. And within this, there's many other useful tools. We can go into connectivity, and if I want to get just raw logs from a particular gateway, I'm able to get those here as well. So we'll grab my particular transit again. Now I just want to look at the logs. I want to make sure that my environment is running healthy. And if I want to take this out, there's a very quick and easy way. I can copy that to my clipboard, and now I can take that and I can put that anywhere I want. So if I wanted to save this and then go and grep against it and look for particular things, I can. One of the other features with this is controller diagnostics. Within this, I actually have full access to every event log that happens inside the controller. So now if I'm looking at this particular transit, and it was the simple AWS transit, search through this, now I'm able to quickly identify where this transit is running. And you can see here, this is its HA gateway. But in this case here, I can see that a tunnel status changed. Well, now I have the exact timestamp that could look at this. And if my application owner has reached out and said, hey, we noticed that a gateway dropped, or my application was stuttering, or it stopped working for some reason, and maybe for some reason I didn't have an alert go off, I can now go directly into my event logs, and I can go and I can say, when did this happen? And now I can look at this and say, hey, I had a down gateway. The state for this gateway is down during this time period. That's likely the issue that you ran into. Let me go and troubleshoot that further. So Brighton, on this is a great page for troubleshooting. What were some of the key considerations that you and the design team put in when you were building this feature?
Right. So just like in most troubleshooting, be it even at home, what you're looking for is the tools right next to you. And that's one of the key considerations of design that we did with this diagnostic tools. Josh, you showed a bunch of these tools and capabilities, but there's one way to access this is going through diagnostic to your tools. But what if you were on your topology that most of you might be familiar with, and you look like you know a gateway that's been acting up, or something that catches your eye on with a red line, just like this one. So let's go with the same transit gateway that you were talking about. So I search for the gateway, and immediately on this, I can pull up the gateway of interest here, or filter it further down. So when I click the gateway, I get the properties, and I also have the tools right here. So I could begin gateway diagnostic, all the features that you just showed us right from the topology page. If I want to do a BGP diagnostic, yes, I have the same BGP commands right here that I can click run from. So this is one place. And the more common use cases and workflows that you have found is your cloud routes, your debugging, your tunnel status, and then you find one of your gateways, let's say, let's look for the same one, the simple AWS transit that you had. You could run the gateway diagnostic tools out of here. You could run your packet capture and begin your packet capture session here as well. So there's multiple ways to get to it. And of course, the traditional way of going into your gateways, finding the gateway of your choice, and then saying, hey, I'm looking at this gateway. I'm looking at some of the properties. Now I feel like, wait, I want to run some diagnostic on them. We have the diagnostic tools here. So what we did with this change is bring the tools closer to where you need them. It's like having a screwdriver right next to you whenever you need it. So that's one of quality of life improvements that we have added on top of the rich feature set that we have brought to the diagnostic tools today.
No, it really is great. The idea of being able to easily narrow in and troubleshoot your network as quickly as possible from that particular context, it really is. It changes the game when we're in these intense environments and we're really dealing with how do I reduce the mean time to resolution. That's something that we talk about all the time. The next feature that we want to talk about, and I did see there are a couple questions on there about that we've gotten from the audience around how do we or when is this change going to happen, or when will the controller and CoPilot GUI be pulled. We'll make sure to cover all those kind of questions during the Q&A section, but I just want to make sure that you're not being skipped over if we answer questions that come in after you've asked yours. We want to make sure that we answer all our questions, and we'll dedicate some time to that because it's a very important conversation. So the next piece that's just recently been announced, and you'll need version 7.1 on your controller to be able to see this, is our cloud assets. And this is what we've kind of been referring to as like a cloud asset inventory. We want to be able to provide to our customers the ability to see everything that's going on in your environment. So today there's two pieces to this. There's virtual machines and there's VPCs and VNets. So as you can see here, I can get in my environment for every single cloud account that has been deployed. I get a list of every instance that I'm aware of. And for those of you that 3 months ago were able to be on the last CoPilot quarterly update, we talked about smart groups. And smart groups really, they're powered by this technology. So a smart group gives you that ability to be able to put together a grouping of VPCs or VMs or IPs and build these intelligent groups that auto update based off of your CSP tags. Well, we wanted to go a step further, and we wanted to be able to say, here is everything that we see. And I want to turn some time over to Brighton to be able to kind of show us what the real power here is in being able to have full visibility into every asset that's deployed inside of your environment.
Right. So again, this goes back to the change we talked about, the grid and the power of grid with filters and search. So now you're looking at all your virtual machines across all your accounts and all your clouds. Now, let's say you run an application. For fun, let's call that we had a CostBot running. Let me see if I can pull that up. So when I search for CostBot, it looks at my CSP tags and pulls all entities that have been tagged with CostBot here. So now let's say this is actually giving me all the CostBot related entities, but I know that these 5 ones are the ones that I need to think about for defining my CostBot application here. So let me do that quickly again. So I search for CostBot, and then I go and pick. Okay, never mind. So I would be able to pick these virtual machines that I'm interested in, and then create a smart group right from here. So you would actually go back to your smart groups, and you could see the smart groups that we create from here. So we've actually given you the visibility to look at each of your entities and then create a smart group inline from this cross-cloud view of all your assets in the cloud.
So once again, really just highlighting the power of the data grid and highlighting the power of having all that information together, simplifying our ability to truly be able to break down and see what's going inside of our cloud environment. And the most exciting piece, in my opinion, is now doing that all through the single pane of glass. So the last piece for us to touch on is one of the new features that will be released for Aviatrix CoPilot. And unfortunately, most of you won't have this in your environment today. You'll have it by the end of the week because CoPilot does auto update. But what we're starting to do is we're starting to look at complex workflows that have several steps to be able to complete and pushing them into one simple workflow. So you'll see here, if I click start on this particular workflow, here are the 7 steps that I would need to be able to go through and build a secure egress gateway and start pushing traffic with policy on it to control and visualize my entire network. And as we take you through this, we give you the steps that you would need to be able to do outside of this workflow to be able to do it. So you can see here, if I wanted to add additional Spoke gateways in the future, I would navigate into my Cloud Fabric, into my gateways and Spoke gateways, and I would be able to complete that. And as I go through each of these different steps and I build these things, I'm now able to do this. And it shows me easily how to be able to do this. And I can then come back and build this myself, or in the future, if I want to just continue to use this workflow, it is available to me. So we have about 4 minutes left. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to go through some Q&A. So if I can figure out the slides, there we go. So Q&A. There was a great question that came in about the CoPilot and controller combination, and whether or not this is going to be something that's forced onto customers, or if this is going to be automatic. It is not going to be automatic. All of the functionality that we have will become available to you in CoPilot. However, the controller won't go away until probably early 2024. And that would be only if you were to release one of our newest versions of software. So for customers today that have their runbooks and their builds that are using their controller, and they're building and operating their network, there is no fear of automatically just one day going to log into it and it going away. We would never do that to our customer base. We want to make sure that the process to move from the controller into this new simplified workflow not only makes sense for your business, but also makes it so that your life as a network engineer and as a cloud operator gets easier. That's why we've spent so much time over this last year and a half making sure that our workflows are simplified and easier to use, and that they're intuitive. So that when you do come from the controller side, like Brighton showed earlier, and you're used to navigating to 5 or 6 different locations to do something and clicking 13 times, that now when you come to this new workflow, you say, hey, I recognize what you've done, and it's very simple for me to do. So really, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the questions. To kind of wrap up today, wanted to just put out an invitation. There is an event for us. You can come and join us for lunch, where we're going to be talking about how Aviatrix and AWS have partnered together. We're really working on redefining cloud security, saving money, improving security, making it so that you can fully leverage your cloud infrastructure capabilities. There's some dates and some times. You can scan the QR code and you can get an invite into one of those. We also have a lot of other events that are upcoming. So if you wanted to learn more, if you want to deal more with Aviatrix, also please check out Aviatrix Ace if you haven't. And it looks like one last question came in about will you have your own firewall rules offered, or will be still third-party marketplace rules? If I follow that question properly, the understanding is that the firewall rules are actually, you're able to configure firewall rules inside of CoPilot today. So you're able to go in, you can build under security and secure cloud networking. You're able to now visualize and view firewall policies and build those out. So, really grateful for everybody's time today. We thank you all so much for coming out. We'll have more of these quarterly reports, and we're also going to be putting out some new series for CoPilot as well. And we hope you all have a great rest of your day or your evening.